Okay, once again, welcome everybody. I put the agenda in the chat again. If you could press this on the sign-in sheet, and I'll resend that out after the Zoom is over. So welcome to this Zoom for Music and Performing Arts, and for all of you to connect. I think, and the floor is really yours. This is your opportunity to connect and ask questions. But I know that one of the first items on the agenda that lots of people, and 1 and 2 do kind of go together, as Marie pointed out. How do we take a deep dive into a unit and also preserve rehearsal time? And how does MYP fit into the performing arts classes? So anytime you want to unmute and talk and share and ask questions.
We're unmuted.
Okay, so I'll go. I'm just going to start by saying, I've been chirping away since we became an MYP school. I feel like a lot of the roundtables that I went to, and even up until 2 years ago, the guides really made more sense for general music and for visual arts rather than performing arts. And I know we all feel like we are under the gun. We need to have like it's all about the concert. It's all about the concert. And sometimes it's hard to take that deep dive with some of the things that we were supposed to be assessing, et cetera, when we have, 4 weeks until concert time, and trying to prioritize certain things. So I guess what I'm hoping we do during this time is just maybe even, bounce ideas off of each other, or hear how you all do incorporate some of these things. And also so they don't have to change. Our repertoire changes every single year, but it would be, it's almost impossible as it is, but it would just be impossible to have to recreate the wheel every single year to have completely different units come September. So how do we create these deep dive units that will then overarch and we can use for any piece of sheet music that comes up, any piece of repertoire that may come up during the year? So what I've been doing this year, and I'm kind of calling it like MYP light, is I've been trying to start to chunk certain themes. Like, for example, in the beginning of the year, to do just like basic musicianship. If you're a vocal person, how do we take care of our voice? How do we use our instrument? Maybe if it was a instrumentalist, how do we care for our instrument? What does it look like to be a responsible musician? Things like that. So that's my piece. Hopefully I got the ball rolling.
So
oh, good.
Oh, no, you go.
Sorry, Jocelyn. So the one fully developed MYP unit that we have at our middle school is a performance-based unit. We created a statement of inquiry that pretty much covers our entire performance-based unit. So, okay, help me out. Ready? Oh, sorry. Interpretation affects communication in performance, or vice versa. We always get it backwards. We have it posted in the front of our room.
Communication. I think it's
okay. Communication affects interpretation.
Bonnie can correct us.
Bonnie, help us out. What did I do wrong?
Which one was it? It's up in the room.
We're all not in our classrooms. But anyway, the whole idea with that statement is talking to the kids about what we're looking for is for them to connect to their music and emote even at the middle school level. And we, going back and watching our concerts afterwards, and did they have the dynamic contrast that they thought they had? Did they have the facial expression in the choral setting that they thought? Are they effectively communicating the message of the music through their phrase shape, through their whatever else that we practiced? So that's sort of how we centered our performance-based unit.
Yeah, we also we're in Putnam Valley. We're not like official, we're just starting this journey. And we also just created, we called it an ensemble unit, based around identity and how individuals contribute to the ensemble. So it's a lot of like setting goals for yourself and checking your own progress and reflecting on your performance. And I took one of the like 3-day long music MYP training things, and I found that a lot of people there didn't have a ton of units, but a lot of their units overlap throughout the year. So kind of like what Marie was saying, how you're kind of grouping the different things that you do. And so we created an ensemble unit that's like the first half of the year, but also while we're teaching that unit, we'll also be teaching like a rhythm unit that kind of overlaps with it. So I kind of see us as, and please correct me if other people see it other ways. Again, we're just at the very beginning of this. But I kind of see us as arts people as, you know, we're not doing this unit, then this unit, then this unit, especially in the performance ensemble. We're doing 2 or 3 different units at a time. And they're all interweaving and interlocking, and that's kind of how I see it happening. But again, please, I would love to hear everyone else's ideas and thoughts on that.
I guess I'll talk again, please. Somebody interrupt me if you, I don't like constantly monopolize, but I think that's one of the things that I was struggling with the most is that when we do a general music unit, it is a unit that we spend 5 weeks on from start to finish, from identifying to, you know, all of the terms, you know, gradually, and where it's like, we can't just ignore dynamics or phrasing for this concert because we didn't have time to take a deep dive and have everybody be able to define it and what, you know, it's like, no, just do it. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, and again, I feel like it's different, but what we need to do is kind of choose where we are officially like assessing those certain things. And again, I full disclosure is we have not written any MYP units for performing arts. Like we have them done for general music, but not for performing arts. And I think because every time I tried something, I felt like I was going down a rabbit hole. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. Well, that's not going to work. So I think that's what we need to do is almost like have, you know, 4 tabs open. We have 4 units open and we almost have to like go through all of them until probably like spring. Because I'm finding even to assess something like, say, a responding unit, I can appraise my own artwork or performance. I'm feeling like, because we just did that, right? And I feel my 8th graders did great because again, I've been hammering things. And for the ones I've had for 3 years, I've had them for 3 years. But like 6th graders, they just don't have the terminology yet to be able to explain what they're hearing and what, to respond to their own performance in musical terms well yet. Because again, I didn't spend a ton of time on vocabulary words. We spent a ton of time on tone and phrasing because there was a concert coming up. So I think that what we need to do again is just, you know, kind of chip away at it all and then maybe do our full assessments more like in spring, depending on what level they're at. I mean, obviously it's going to look different because I'm even thinking again, not to have to recreate the wheel every single year because our songs change. But maybe we just have different levels of almost like the same assessment. Like
I'm not sure if this is helpful or not, but our school is actually going to visit, and again, I'm not a performing arts teacher, so I'm just a coordinator and I hear snippets from everybody. We're going to do a site visit in East Hartford in February, who is a really well-established school. Their MYP coordinator is also the assistant principal. She's great. And I specifically asked her if their performing arts department was engaging with the MYP versus, you know, general music. And she said and hopefully we'll have more to report back in a couple of weeks where you can all share. But she said with the new arts guide and the new criterion, it's much easier to assess and to have that framework adaptable to performing arts versus the other one. And that guide specifically came from performing and music arts feedback. So she said they're finding it much easier and they've been able to roll with it. So that's all I have, that they've been able to kind of roll with it. But hopefully when we meet with them, we'll be able to share more with that. And she did say that a piece of the summative assessment can be your concerts, because obviously for anyone who does performing arts, that's such a, you do 2 concerts or more little ensembles, and that's a huge piece of what you do. But that shouldn't be the only summative assessment. And I just want to say as a coordinator to remind everybody that summative assessments do not have to come at the end of a unit. They come at the end of learning. So you can have, if you are teaching them a concept, and again, I don't even want to attempt to butcher all the wonderful things that you do. You can assess along the way. It comes out after a piece of learning, and not everything, and then you can move on. We can have multiple assessments within one unit, and they don't all have to come at the end. Maybe if you're teaching something, you can assess there and then move on to the next piece, because it's still summative. And IB, the way the assessment is, we want to know what students do know, not what they don't. So just to kind of keep that in mind, maybe that's helpful. Maybe you're like, that's not helpful at all. But just to kind of keep that in mind in general when you are creating units. But anyway, the floor is still yours.
Hi, I'm Cody from Office Center.
Can you hear
I have
her?
a question for those of you who have,
Can I hear you?
can you hear me? Okay, who have performing arts units that are kind of well established and have figured out your assessments, your variety of assessments. How do you manage the workload of all of those assessments? Because I mean, as ensemble teachers, the quantity of students that we have is quite large, and to have playing assessments and written assessments, and then adding multiple of those to get all of the different levels of learning in the IB rubric is just such an immense amount of grading work. And how is that managed?
Crickets. And it's crickets for a reason, because,
I don't know.
it's so it's almost impossible. It's like there's only so many hours in a day and we all need to eat and sleep. Yeah, I mean, and it's almost like a little frustrating to me sometimes when I do hear, I don't watch careful with my words, but we know that like our concerts can be part of a summative assessment, true but false. Because in the moment, I don't know if Jane on the top riser 3 over saying everything correctly and how her tone was. I have no idea. So I have a student at the door. Excuse me, be right back.
Mike and Anthony, I feel like you're trying to unmute. Were you trying to get in there?
Yeah. And there was a delay. I don't know if you can hear me now.
You're a little broken up. It's a little spotty. Sorry.
Type in the chat.
Well, I'll try. And you can hear. It sounds like all the concerns that is bringing up for arts. We've been to. Can they not hear me?
No, we can't hear you. It's sorry.
You can leave and come back.
How can you hear me?
Sorry, Mike and Anthony. Maybe you could type in the chat. Like I know you dictate everything, but a few points, and then we could read them so everyone could share. I don't know if you can hear me suggesting that. If anyone else wants to jump in about ideas about concert or summative assessments or performing arts, please feel free while Mike and Anthony are trying to.
We just invited Mike and Anthony to come down where we are. Can you guys hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so they were in a different room. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We have reflections that we do at the end of the concert, like I alluded to before, where we watch the concerts and have the kids reflect on the ensemble's performance as a whole in all the different categories of musicianship. And then they have to do it individually and give specific examples as to identify the things that went well, things that didn't go well, evaluate, what they should be working on for the next concert. So they're looking forward, those types of things, using a lot of that MYP language that we've become familiar with. And that counts as part of their assessment. So you are getting an individual reflective type assessment for them. They do that digitally. We are Google School, so they submit everything through the Google.
What did Mike and Anthony do to Kyle? I was going to say the whole
Are we there?
computer.
Can you hear me now?
We just lost your connection. They're cracking up over there. Does anybody else, does anybody else think about that reflection piece? Does that feel manageable to you? Does that feel like something that you could incorporate?
How does that reflection piece feel?
We do the reflection piece as well here, like following each concert. I don't know, it has not seemed like, I don't know how to explain it. We do the reflection work, but I feel like we're kind of working backwards. So we have the performance and the playing assessment aspect, and we have the reflection aspect, and we have plenty of MYP based discussion protocol for our classes, but creating actual units that contain all of the activities we are doing, we don't have as solid. So we're not working unit down. We're almost working in the other direction. We have all the components, but we don't have units that they're under, I guess. That summarized that more accurately. Yeah.
I agree. And I think that was one of the things that I said is I feel like with performing arts, it's almost like we do it backwards. If you look at like command terms, if you look at like this at scaffolding, it's like we almost do it backwards because we are performing, we are having them do it. And then backwards is the identifying and understanding it. Because for me, I feel like criterion A is the one that is the most difficult to assess just because of the time that it takes to investigate a movement or genre in their chosen arts discipline related to the statement of inquiry. Again, to me, that's very language based. How do you assess that? And I mean, how much time does that take? And does it take away from actually performing, which is what we're supposed to be doing? Describe an artwork or performance from the chosen movement. Yeah, it's a lot to me. That's a lot. I'm not sure how to really do that. I don't know how to do that again without taking away too much rehearsal time.
Does anybody have any kind of strategies or how they're balancing rehearsal time with reflection with MYP? I know Colleen and Donna Marie are trying to,
You're doing, if we're gonna start with just the reflection as one of your assessments, one of your summative tests for one concert, because you're saying, I'm understanding you, 2 concerts, doing it twice is too much.
No, it's not necessarily that, it's if we're adding other layers of assessment on top of something like a reflection. Because
What if,
when we do, I feel like a lot of the issues with, I'm on mute, sorry. We're talking amongst ourselves.
You're
but-
on it.
Some of the levels of what we're assessing are not deep enough for kids to be scoring in the 7 and 8 because it is more a recitation of understanding of concepts. Not making like global connections or quite figure out what I'm trying to say, but they don't reach the 8 on the level of thinking, but they're showing us what we need in terms of mastery. So then how do you get kids who are getting the 7 and 8s? How do you create some type of assessment that is getting to that level of thinking? Because it's not really what we're covering in our own content. Some of what we need is much more fact-based, and those are the assessments that we're also giving. So does that mean we have to give our content-based assessment on top of MIP-based assessments? Does that make sense? Yeah.
formative versus summative?
Not really. It's like,
No, it's performing versus real.
concrete concepts versus, concrete concepts
Yeah.
versus higher level thinking. A lot of the assessments we give are concrete concepts. There is no room for the higher level thinking because we're like, do you understand 1 and 2 and 3 and 4?
Right.
You know, like that concrete, music concept
Like if we're
that
giving
doesn't
a
have a
rhythm
higher
assessment.
level concept to really go with it.
If we're giving a rhythm assessment, right, we taught a new rhythm, just to her point, like, okay, so we're gonna give an assessment after learning, not after the unit, which is great, right? So we teach you the rhythm, compound time, we give a rhythm assessment, to Cody's point, it's concrete, right? And you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The higher level thinking piece
Is missing.
for those kind of assessments.
What would the higher level thinking piece be?
I don't know. I think that's our issue. I'm reading in their chat to see.
We were told we don't need to use every criterion in each unit. I'm reading aloud. Are you all hearing me? Did you want to hear me? Do you want to? Because I can read. I can't play any music, but I can read. If you all have your phones, try to, okay, that's different. We have a sight reading unit that is criterion D only. Our performance unit focuses more on
Okay.
criterion A. Okay, there, all the music people are nodding their heads,
Do you
okay?
guys still use Sight Reading Factory? Yeah.
Yeah, we had it.
Okay.
We're working to create units for each of the categories we think are important to make the whole musician. And we are on a computer. We can do a good close read.
Yeah, what I meant by that is that maybe your phones, your Wi-Fi on your
Yeah.
phones is challenging the Wi-Fi in your room, which is why you're getting glitchy. That's what I was talking about. Tried turning off because it was just strange that as soon as the guys walked in, it got you all got glitchy. So just give it a shot. Give it a shot.
I'm curious, it seems like we're all at similar points in the journey that we're going on. We wrote one unit, we haven't necessarily been implementing per se these units yet. Is anyone like actually in the, we wrote our units, we're really like, we've tested this out, or am I correct in the impression that I'm getting that like we're all still in the very much feeling this out stage?
That's still where we are. I'm kind of doing what I would call MYP light this year. I don't have any specific written unit. And I think it's because I've been almost like playing Tetris, like where would this concept fit best? Where does this vocabulary word fit best in the year? When will I have time to kind of take a deep dive on it, and how will it best make sense while teaching repertoire, while teaching routines in the beginning of the year, while teaching sight reading, et cetera, et cetera. So the plan is that we're hoping to actually develop at least one, maybe over the summer, to do something real next year. So.
Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm eating my lunch, so I have my camera off, but I just wanted to ask, has anybody, and if you cover this, I was also late, so I'm a Stark student right now. Sorry about that. This was already covered. Has anybody either A, been to a training specifically for performing arts, like an MYP or an IB? Awesome. Where? Out of curiosity.
I did a virtual one, which was really pretty great because number one, I didn't have to travel anywhere. And number two, I got to work with people in Canada, India, like all around the world, which was pretty cool. And I don't remember, I'm pretty sure it was performing arts focused because I got to like work in a breakout group with a couple band people. I'm a band person, and like they did other breakout groups with like orchestra people and choral people, and there were one or two like that didn't really fit, but it was kind of performing arts focused, and the person who led it also like had performing arts experience. He was a band guy, I think. So I did, but that was like in March. And this year we're just starting to write our units, so I almost kind of feel like I've forgotten some of the stuff, or like I'm a little out of touch with everything. I will have to look and see exactly like what I did it through, but it was really helpful to talk to other people like this, you know, who understand what's going on. And those people that I spoke to, it was technically what they call a category 2 training. So I was supposed to have already had experience, but my district and everybody was just like, just go, like, it'll be fine. You'll have other friends to talk to. And so the people who I was actually talking with had already had units. And so I was just kind of like, the goal was to write another unit, and they wanted to improve on units they already had. So I kind of got to see what they were already doing, which is how I came to kind of find that like they were only doing like 4 or 5 units total for the year. And they were just big units that kind of overlapped and included like lots of concepts.
Okay.
So sorry, that was long-winded.
No, that was great. Thank you. Yeah. And again, sorry if this was already brought up, but so I work in Somers with Jenna, Miles, and Marie. And what Miles and Marie and I are finding often is that there are so many great general music MYP examples. And I think the three of us have a banging 7th grade MYP curriculum. But every time I talk to like another district, they're like, oh yeah, we have a really good, we do MYP. I'm like, oh great, what do you do for band? And they're like, oh no, we don't do that. So my second question was going to be, has anybody been to a school and actually seen band, chorus, or orchestra, MYP or IB in action? No one's
before. I mean, I haven't. So we're going February 2nd, but I just wanted to catch up on what our friends Colleen, Mike, Donna Marie, what they're saying. And it says in the chat, our performance unit is specifically for concert preparation in each of our performing groups. While the focus is on communication and interpretation, this allows us to teach all the skills at each level along the way. We can then still assess at an individual and not be taken away from our collaborative concert goals. And then they said, which is so amazing and wonderful, after this meeting, we can share out the unit planner and assessment rubrics we have been using if that's helpful. That's it. Got 3 thumbs up, and that would be amazing for Marie. We love that. And then they said the big unit idea is how we are working as well. The performance unit is continual, and then we can overlap smaller units simultaneously. So thank you so much for kind of writing out that narrative. I know that's probably a pain, but we appreciate your contribution and flexibility, everybody. So has anyone seen a school where it's live and action working in performing arts was Rachel's question.
So we're going to, is it West Hartford, Jenna?
East Hartford, yeah, in February. And I specifically said, and that's the school I was referencing at the beginning, that they said their teachers have found since the new guide came out. And when I say easier, that doesn't mean they perfected it or they're like, this is so, I'm sure they're still in beginning stages, but that it fits. How about that? It fits and aligns more with what performing arts actually does than the previous rubric. And I think that is probably a better way to say it. There are still, it's not perfect, but again, hopefully after that visit, we'll have things to share out with the group, because, I love that Colleen and Donna Marie are saying we can share out rubric assessments and unit planners. I think, again, that's one of the big benefits of anytime you go anywhere is building your own network. And, this is just me facilitating, but you don't need me from now on. You guys have each other and building your own network. One of the asks for sharing was if anybody wanted to share rehearsal routines or share any successes that you've had. So I think this would be a great opportunity to share, like, what is your rehearsal routine, performing arts lessons or whatever you may call them. Is it before school, within school? How do you meet with kids individually as a group, and what successes have you had? That would be great, because that's something everybody can contribute to.
Are you asking how we schedule music?
Yes, specifically, I think for performing arts groups and yes.
So at Southside Middle School, we have band, orchestra, and chorus 3 out of a 6-day cycle. And in the 7th and 8th grade, chorus has, and the teachers make the groups, chorus has a lesson once in a 6-day cycle. They schedule, and in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in band and orchestra, the students have once in a 6-day cycle, they're scheduled a lesson. It's an artful scheduling system as far as the lessons go, because, the gen ed teachers are going to yell that their kid is always pulled from whatever it is. So the teachers do it very well on a rotating basis. So the kid is not always pulled from the same subject area. And also in the morning, we have extra help every day from 7:35 to 8:10. So if a student says, I can't come today, I have to stay and learn about the Pythagorean theorem, they can make up that lesson with their teacher during the no extra help period in the morning, which is not as great as having them be in their small group. Some of the groups are larger than small, to do their lessons. We also have a wind ensemble, which is also scheduled during the day. For 7th and 8th grade, it's every other day. It's a small community of musicians. And then we also have at night, one evening a week from, I'm going to go 7 to 9, 8:30, 7 to 8:30. We have jazz band and we have chorale. And we also have before school chorus for students, say, who can't, if that's for the 6th graders, who say they really can't either fit, they want to do chorus as well as band or orchestra, or they, for whatever reason, couldn't fit it. And then that allows them to still be in the concert performance. Did I miss anything?
How big is your school? How many students?
Currently this year, we have approximately 840. It's a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and we do not have general music classes. All students take performing music, especially in the 6th and 7th grade. Then in 8th grade, it can or cannot dwindle, but depending on, it becomes more of student choice, but we encourage them all to stay in music. It's a nice school.
Thank you so much for sharing. And it's always the math teacher that for your example, that's complaining that kids are getting pulled out.
Yes, it is.
Doesn't matter.
With the science teacher who jumps in right behind, and it's mainly the 8th grade teachers, the 6th and 7th are much more lax. Am
I
correct?
mean, my stereotypes exist. Social studies teachers, at least in 6th grade, are much more friendly. I just pulled that randomly. Thank you so much, Rockville Center. And would anybody else like to share their routines and rehearsal practices and how your structure goes? We love everyone to be a risk taker and communicator. So if join.
I'm happy to share a little bit about what we do in Somers, which not necessarily directly MYP related right now, but we have orchestra, band, and chorus. They're all elective classes. And then the 7th graders who are not in a performing arts ensemble take general music. The performing arts classes happen every other day. It's like we have like a 14-day cycle, which I've been here for 5 months now, I guess, and I'm still wrapping my head around it, but it kind of, I guess it works out. It works out so that like we don't drop. We have one class dropped every day, and we only have that each class dropped twice per cycle. So we see every class basically 6 times throughout every 14-day cycle. And then on top of that, we have 2 lock periods, which is when we can schedule group instrument classes. So if there's a group of violinists that need help on something, I can create a group and schedule them, and they look and they can see that. And for my rehearsals lately, I've been trying to structure it, especially I feel like there's a lot more room for me to try things now because the concert's further away. I've been focusing lately, I've been doing improvisation. So I've been spending like the beginning part of the class working on those types of concepts and learning about like different scales that they can use and things like that. And then we're starting to do the concert prep at the same time. So it was good to hear other people who have like the concert prep unit throughout the year and then are doing other things at the same time. So that's been working. But I also feel like when it gets close to the concert, it's hard to like build in anything else other than the concert prep for like a while before the concert. Is there anything you, Rachel or Marie, want to add about the Somers program?
I would just add, because I literally just like typed all like kind of that out for a colleague in Yorktown. They're looking to change their schedule around, and she was like, how do you do your schedule? Like, how does this work? How does your model work? And something that she did ask were because one of the pros is that we have that win period, the what I need period. So we can, just like Miles said, go ahead and schedule. My flutes and clarinets come on Monday during their win period, and it's scheduled in a thing, and they don't have to remember it, and they're not being pulled from another class, and it's awesome. Except that this is the con, is that everything is scheduled during the what I need period. So if kids have services, or they need extra help with science, or they're also in chorus, you know what I mean? It's a really busy time. So it sounds like this magical time of day that prevents us from pulling from other classes on a rotating schedule, which is what we used to do, just like somebody else had described. It is overall pretty good, but what I think our school needs to work on is just not overscheduling the kids and expecting them to be in so many places at once. I had a question. Does anybody see their band, chorus, or orchestra ensembles every day? Everybody's like an every other day, or like sometimes a once a week sort of situation. Yeah, just curious.
Putnam Valley has, Jocelyn, Mike and I are from Putnam Valley. So we have our 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th graders, and our 5th and 6th graders are every other day. They're required to be in band or chorus for 40 minutes a day. And then our 7th and 8th graders are every 3 days for an hour, every 3 days, meeting with us throughout the time. Chorus doesn't have any lesson time, but Jocelyn or Mike, you could probably fill them in a little bit more on what you guys do for your lesson time.
Yeah, lessons are complicated. I mean, we're fortunate enough to have 2 band teachers for 5, 6, 7, 8, and 3 because our elementary school teacher comes over for part of the day. So we're able to kind of break down, like a lot of times during my band, I don't have my full, 40 student band, because the saxophones will be having a separate lesson. While I'm teaching the rest of the ensemble. So there's pros to that, and that's not always what we do for lessons. Sometimes they're also pulled out of what we call an IE, which sounds like your win period. And, we've kind of tried to stray away from pulling them out of academic classes. I do this because we are, of course, an academic class as well. But yeah, so I mean, there's pros and cons to that too, like you were saying, because, it's nice that we can pull them out of band, but then it's not super frequent that I have my entire band together at one time because these kids are getting a lesson or these kids are, blah, blah, blah. So.
I have a question. If
No, they hate it, yeah.
if it's required that every 5th and 6th grader takes a performing arts group, are the choral people here? How does that work out?
Yeah, Jean Marie is choral. Yeah. I mean, in fifth grade, I don't know if you're referring to us specifically. But in 5th grade, I usually get most of the grade. So the kids are in their 2nd year of band. They start in 4th grade in the elementary school. And so they're still super enthusiastic and it's great. And then I teach them again in 6th grade. So I keep most of them in. And then in 7th grade, when things start to get hard, we lose a bunch of them. So 7th grade is where things start to kind of become, well, I mean, 6th grade too, Jean Marie, you can hop in on that. Yeah. But 6th and 7th grade are like where it's choral becomes like.
Well, that's, I guess I've heard from colleagues where that model happens. Very often the choral program struggles because chorus is always the leftovers. It's the leftovers, yes. And it's the kids who really don't want to be doing this. And then on top of it, they're not given the time to have lessons, which is great, or an extra class. So that's great. You have all of these kids who don't want to be there, and we're not going to give you any extra time to help them out. So good luck with that. So am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but luckily we do allow the kids to do both band and chorus. So when I have my core chorus kids that I see on a predominantly, most of the time, and then one day a week, thank you, Jocelyn. Although one day a week, Jocelyn or Mike will let those kids come into chorus. So for once a week, I'll have more kids, and that's when my numbers will double because there are so many kids who do both band and chorus. So luckily I am able to get those kids that really want to be there and really want to learn. But unfortunately, those kids that really want to be there are only there one day a week, with the exception of the handful of the kids that are taking me every other day. But I try to do the best I can, but it is very difficult when you have a lot of kids that don't want to be there. It's not until 8th grade when we offer a digital music class that those kids that really don't want to perform anymore leave. And then my 8th grade group now is a group of kids that truly want to learn. And we've done more things there in 8th grade than we've done in 5th and 6th and 7th.
Anybody who hasn't had a chance to contribute, want to share how you guys do chorus, performing arts, band, orchestra?
Well, hi, I know you can't see me, I'm all the way over here, but I just wanted to add, that we have the same struggles here because we don't have general music either. And so I find, because I used to teach at the elementary level, it was very easy because we had all the band, orchestra, and chorus kids all together. They all had to do together, and we did the concerts from there. And it was very easy to get them all to sing. And then here, in sixth grade, all the kids choose band or orchestra, and then we get everybody who's left over. And it's hard because there's a lot of kids in there that are there because there's nowhere else for them to go. And of course, like I try my best to get them all to sing, like this is fun, this is what we're doing. But it's hard, you know, and I feel like in the last couple of years, especially since COVID, it's gotten a lot harder to get them to sing. It's like they're not coming from that culture of singing from the elementary school that was interrupted for them. So yeah, it's been a little tough. And in sixth grade, we don't have lessons. In seventh and eighth grade, they do, but it's still the same issue, especially with the seventh grade chorus. It's huge. But I want to talk about that.
Seventh grade chorus is large in the sense that every kid has to take a performing ensemble in seventh grade too. So my eighth grade is always smaller because students choose to be there. And then I inherit that from Adam, who teaches sixth grade, but in seventh grade, I do get the pull-out lessons. She doesn't have that for sixth grade. But it's just large classes, large ensembles. It's always been that way.
It's always been, if I could say, it's always been that way since we stopped doing general music, which was a dumping ground for students in seventh grade. And then what was happening was the ensembles going up to the high school were so much smaller and music was dwindling. And that's where we turned. I've been around a long time. That's where we turned into having sixth and seventh grade. Everyone takes performing music, and then the general music, which really was, it would be 2 sections of general music to start the school year with only 4 kids in it. And then it ended up 2 sections of 30. So, you know, sometimes we do things with kids who we know that are either making the teacher suffer or they themselves are suffering by being in music because they hate it so much that we call it diminished, because New York State says that you have to give them a certain amount of performing or arts, and it can be diminished if they've had some. So we do try, but they're big groups. These guys have, like, how many are in sixth grade chorus?
123.
And how many are in sixth grade band?
80.
80. And how many are in orchestra?
72.
72. They're big. They're big.
Comac Middle School, are you guys in the mailroom? Where did you guys end up?
Yeah, look at where they are.
We're in our director's office currently. Thank you, Mark.
We can hear you beautifully. So if you wanted to share anything that you didn't have to type in the chat, that would be awesome.
Well, I think for us, we're just a little bit different. We're a larger setting. So I have 150 kids in sixth grade chorus, about the same in seventh, and about 100 in eighth. We see our kids every other day. So they divide our classes in half. So I'm seeing 65, 70 kids at a time for the main class setting. Same for all the performing ensembles. We have general music in sixth and seventh grade, and we have a special ed music class for our small class setting kids that can't function in performing ensemble. And then we have rotating lessons where we see band, orchestra, chorus kids divided by grade and discipline and stuff like that.
I'd love to end on anything that you have found that has success with, like whether it be in performing arts, in general music, anything with the MYP, share a success, and we can end on a high note, and then I'll email everybody all of your email addresses and you can begin to share resources. But if anyone wants to jump in and just share a success that you've had with students, with collaborating with others, with a schedule, with a performing, just a success.
All right, I would like to share a success that we have here. I know, so I'm reading the chat that some of you guys have a digital music class in 8th grade, but here at Roundtable Center, they allowed me to create a music studio class, which is a digital music class for 8th grade, but it's every day and it's for high school credit. So kids get to choose studio art or music studio. And through the MYP, I was able to use, I mean, it's so easy, it just fits in perfectly with the idea of that class. So we have like 10 units that we just go through at an individual pace. Students just go through them themselves. And yeah, I think that it works really well with today's technology and, you know, with a different lens on music.
And do they get a taste of it in the 6th grade?
Yes. And yes, we have exploratory also in 6th grade.
And in sixth, that's only a 10-week course, but they get a taste of it so that when they're going into 8th grade and they're deciding whether they music studio and art or whatever else for their electives, they have an idea of what the music lab will be, which is good.
Sounds awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Anybody else?
I have a question, which is going back to the topic we were speaking about earlier in, I think it was Comac that mentioned having like the concert prep unit that goes throughout the year. How do you go about then like going from 6th grade to 7th grade to 8th grade? Like, do they all use the same concert prep unit, or have you managed to like choose specific concepts for 6th grade that you're going to assess? And then 7th grade, different concepts that are more challenging, but also review. Like, how do you, or is it just the same and it just gets a little bit
So
harder?
we're definitely still evolving. But the whole idea first was to come up with one unit planner as far as definitely page 1 into the summative assessment into page 2 was all started the same. And then beyond that, we started breaking it up. Well, what skills do we teach every year? We know this is part of our curriculum that we need to follow. And that's where we started getting more specific for 6th grade band versus 7th grade band, 7th grade orchestra versus 8th grade orchestra. So you could see the progression in the skills and concepts that we teach. The other thing that we tried to differentiate on was the rubrics themselves. So we have 9 rubrics, 3 for each performing area. And while the criterion are the same, our language musically, the descriptors start to become more advanced in what we look for from our 8th graders versus our 6th graders. So far, it's been working out well across the board because it's a way that we're not completely taken away from our concert program. It's a way that we can still be teaching those skills, but it forces us to be better teachers in digging deeper and making them think about what they're communicating to the audience. What was the composer communicating to us in writing the music in the first place? So we've been feeling pretty good about it because we're still able to assess our students individually, which we would want to do anyway in any year before MYP in getting ready for concerts. But now we're connecting it to everything else. So by no means do we feel like it's perfect. And I think over time, there's going to be more changes year to year in our own individual unit planners. There might be times where because of a specific program, we need to change some of the concepts that we're starting with to have it fit a little bit better. But for now, we've been trying to keep it universal on page 1 and get it to fit us all in our own classrooms. And like I said before, we'll definitely share out all of those rubrics and the unit that we're using right now. And just while I'm thinking of it, if everybody, I don't know if you're okay with this, Jenna, when we signed in, is it possible to have everybody go back and just also list what we teach, just for networking purposes? Because I know it would be great specifically for me to reach out to the band people and to know who we can call on just to get some more specifics.
Absolutely. We do that now. And I'm also I'm drafting an email with all of your emails too, just to get you guys connected. But if you want to quickly go around and say what you teach, that'd be awesome.
Okay, we want to start.
We're all together.
I'm Mike Brescian. I teach band here at Comac Middle School. I teach 6th and 8th grade band.
I'm Anthony Cry, and I teach 7th grade band.
And Gia.
And general music. Thank you.
I'm Katarina Grind. I teach 7th grade orchestra and 7th grade general music.
Donna Marie Demetrio. I teach 8th grade chorus, and we have a lunch chorus.
I'm Connie Fodi. I teach 6th grade orchestra and 8th grade orchestra in the chamber ensemble.
And I'm Colleen Agavino. I teach 6th and 7th grade chorus and that special needs music class.
How big is your school?
We have about a little over 1,000 kids, and we're grades 6 through 8.
I think a major part of this, to add to what Mike so eloquently put, is that the camaraderie here is really awesome.
Yeah.
We're always talking about what we do and bouncing ideas off each other. There's no competition in any
No.
way, shape or form.
You can't tell we enjoy working with each other.
Except for-
You can't tell already.
Except for-
I think there might be a little competition for Wi-Fi and who gets the best connection at your school. I don't know. That's
Well, right now it's our director because it's hardwired, so.
I mean, I don't know if there's clearly favorites over there. I don't want to say anything, but if anyone else wants to jump in, thank you.
I know some people.
Marie
were-
Cron. Oh, Jocelyn, you got it.
No, I know. I wrote it in the document for you, Jean Marie. I know some people were writing it in the document, just so that we have it there, where you signed in.
And I'm going to send that email out to everybody with all of your email addresses. You don't have to, search and hunt and pack for the sign-in sheet. So that way you can kind of start to set, band, orchestra, general music, and vocals. Any other final thoughts before I want to be very cognizant of everybody's time. I know it's Friday afternoon. It's been a long 5 full days. Whoever invented that kind of work week is bananas. Anybody for the good of the cause? I thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you got like a little something and a little ideas, and at least the very most to be able to connect in the future and have networks, because I found that to be the most helpful for me to build my own network as I grow. And you only know what you know currently, right? You don't know what you don't know, and to be able to reach out. And I thank you for joining us and helping support each other as you guys begin your own network. And go Bills.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you all.